Hi, y'all, and welcome to tonight's live stream. Crystal Rogers disappeared in 2015. 8 years later, two people have finally been arrested, but authorities dropped two major bombshells at a hearing on Thursday, which leaves us with the question, just how dark and twisted will this get? Tonight, we are going to Kentucky for a murder with more twists and wild turns than a roller coaster. Arrests have been made, but the mystery has only deepened. Most of us are probably not following this case yet, but we should be because, wow. So, everybody, happy Friday. You have made it all the way to the weekend. So, congratulations. And I am looking forward to tonight's live stream. We're going to be talking about a new case, one that I knew nothing about until I started researching it to talk to y'all. But it is absolutely fascinating, a totally wild ride. So let's get started talking. It was 2015 when 35-year-old Crystal Rogers disappeared. She was last seen on the Houck family farm, the farm owned by the family of her boyfriend, Brooks Houck. Now, I'll show you a picture of her. Just a second. Let me share my screen with you. Oh, wait, that's not a picture of her. That's a document. I think you can tell the difference. Okay, here we go. This is a picture of Crystal with two of her 5 children. One of them she had with her boyfriend, Brooks Houck. She lived with him. Now, Crystal disappeared. Her maroon Chevy Impala was found on the side of the road near the Bluegrass Parkway in Bardstown, Kentucky. Her keys, her purse, her phone were all still inside the car. The car had a flat tire. Now, let me rearrange this. I've got a bunch of screens going here, so my apologies. It may take just a minute. Okay, so now, what exactly happened to Crystal is unknown. No body has ever been found. What is clear is that she hasn't been seen since 2015. At the time she disappeared, Crystal was living, as I said, with her boyfriend, Brooks Houck. Crystal, and I'll show you a picture of him as well. This is a picture of Brooks. And Crystal and Brooks had one child. She had 4 other children. Now, Brooks claims that she was gone when he woke up that morning, that he didn't see her. But Crystal's family has been suspicious of Brooks from the beginning. Crystal's mother recalls her last conversation ever with Crystal. Crystal was talking about Brooks and said, "He thinks I'm an idiot." Now, Crystal's sister says that Crystal was planning to break up with Brooks. With Brooks. And Brooks did not contact authorities until 2 days after Crystal disappeared. Law enforcement would later say that he showed very little emotion about her disappearance. But for Crystal's family, the tragedy did not stop with what happened to Crystal. Crystal's father, Tommy Ballard, was spearheading the search for his daughter. This is Tommy, who was spearheading the search for his daughter. It was a year and a half after Crystal disappeared, and Tommy Ballard had been planning a large-scale, out-of-town search for his daughter. With just 1 week to go until the search, Crystal's father, Tommy, was on his own property preparing to go hunting with his grandson when someone shot him in the chest. He died instantly, and according to some reports I read, it happened in front of his grandson. Now, Tommy's murder remains unsolved. With Tommy's death, Crystal's mother, Sherry Ballard, picked up the mantle and continued the search for what had happened to Crystal. She worked with Oxygen on a documentary called The Disappearance of Crystal Rogers, figuring she needed the extra help of some publicity, some public interest, something to get people to draw attention to the case and to her daughter's disappearance. Now, Crystal's mom, Sherry, was critical of local law enforcement, especially for the way they handled the investigation when her daughter first disappeared. Here is what she told Fox News. She said, "I won't put down law enforcement, but am I happy the way things were handled? No, I'm not happy about it," said Ballard. "And they know that I'm not satisfied. Do you think they're working their butts off now to find my daughter? I think 100% they are now. I just don't think the law enforcement in this town has the means and knowledge for what was needed to find my daughter." Now, from early on, Brooks Houck has been a suspect in some people's minds. But eventually, suspicion also came to rest on Houck's brother, Nick, although not necessarily that he was involved in anything to do with Crystal Rogers' disappearance. Nick was a police officer in Bardstown, where the family lived. A detective wanted to interview him about Crystal's disappearance, but Nick refused. Even, according to the Daily Beast, after his boss, who was the police chief, advised that he ought to meet with the detective. Now, according to the Daily Beast, Nick Houck was fired a few months later. He had failed an FBI polygraph test, the article says, and they say he tried to warn his brother that police were coming to interview him. He explained that he thought one person on the force whom he considered to be unethical might be doing the interview, and he was just trying to protect his brother. Let me show you a brief clip from the interview of Nick Houck, the brother.
Worried. Like I said, Brooks is a really cooperative person, and with things spinning like they are, I just wanted to be sure that, things were done the right way.
Sure. I mean, I know you made mention of one officer here that you think might not be, the most trustworthy person in your words.
Mm-hmm.
But is there anything else that goes on around here? I mean, is the whole department like that, or is it just?
No, I mean, we've got a really good department.
Okay.
I can't knock the department at all.
In the sheriff's department as well?
Yeah, there's a lot of good guys over there.
So, I mean, you obviously had some reservations about something because you called him. It was just that one officer, that's the only reason why?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
How did you know that Snow was the one interviewing him, not one of us?
Well, I just assumed that, I guess, since he'd been interviewed before, that he was the one handling it. So,
I mean, there's other good officers here. What if it was like Kaminsky or somebody else? I mean,
I don't think I'd have been that much worried about it.
So you knew that Snow was going to be the one interviewing him because he told you that Snow called him. Is that what you're saying?
I can't even really remember that. He just said he was going to be interviewed, and I guess since Snow had interviewed him before, that I just assumed that he'd be the one doing the interviewing again.
So Nick Houck said that the reason he approached his brother, the reason that he went to him, was solely because he thought this one person might be unfair or unethical as he interviewed Nick's brother, Brooks, who was suspected in the murder. Meanwhile, though, authorities have been closing in on Brooks Houck. In 2018, Brooks Houck, Crystal's boyfriend, remember, was indicted for 4 felony theft counts. He was accused of stealing shingles for his business from a Lowe's, the hardware store. But a witness, Sammy Johnson, was struck by a couple of things. Here's what he told law enforcement. He said, "It was strange," said Sammy Johnson. "This was supposed to be about shingles. And why do you have the federal agents that are searching? This ain't about shingles, I don't think. I think it's bigger." Oops. I was supposed to actually show that to you. My apologies. Okay. So he was struck by the fact, first of all, that there was a search, and sort of an in-depth one, as opposed to just looking for shingles that were missing, and also that the FBI was actually doing the investigation into the missing shingles. So, in fact, the FBI did take over the investigation into Crystal Rogers' disappearance 3 years ago. They searched the Houck family farm, Brooks's home, and Nick's home. In all, in fact, the family farm was searched 4 times, not just by the FBI, but by prior law enforcement agencies as well. 11 months ago, authorities were there again for 4 hours. Then in 2023, things began moving quickly on this case. First of all, there was a huge surprise twist with the arrest of someone no one suspected. Let me show you a picture. This is Joseph Lawson. Joseph Lawson is a disabled man. He's paralyzed from the waist down. He uses a wheelchair. The charge that was filed against him in June of this year, 2023, was complicity in tampering with physical evidence. There was also a charge filed in July of 2023, and that was for criminal conspiracy to commit murder. Now, complicity is being involved with others in an illegal activity or wrongdoing, and conspiracy is being involved with others in planning for an illegal activity or wrongdoing. But there's one thing that's in common to both of those, and that's being involved with others. So it was pretty clear from the beginning, from the moment that Joseph Lawson was arrested, that authorities felt like other people were involved. Authorities were not saying that Joseph Lawson was solely responsible for what had happened. They were saying he worked with other people to do, and it wasn't totally clear what. And then finally, on September 27th of 2023, this year, the moment everyone had been holding their breath for, authorities arrested Brooks Houck. The indictment has not been made public yet, but at the arraignment hearing, we learned that Houck is charged with murder by intentionally or under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to human life, wantonly causing the death of Crystal Rogers, and with tampering with physical evidence. Let me pull this out just a moment so I can talk to you some more. At that arraignment hearing, numerous bombshells were dropped. It was absolutely fascinating. Now, the first was that Tommy Ballard's death is being investigated, that investigators believe they may actually have the gun that was used to kill, and I'll go ahead and pull that out entirely, that they may actually have the gun that was used to kill Tommy Ballard, Crystal's father. And lo and behold, they think it's linked to Nick Houck. Now, I'm going to show you a little clip from the hearing.
The murder of Tommy Ballard that could potentially be related to this case. We are waiting for testing to come back on the firearm we believe was used to murder Tommy Ballard, a firearm that we purchased from Nicholas Houck, who was using a fake name when he sold the rifle. We know it's the same caliber. There's 5 criteria that they're looking at, and so far it's matched 4 of the 5 criteria.
I haven't practiced.
So Nick, according to what the prosecution said at this hearing, sold the gun under a fake name. They think it could be the actual gun that was used to kill Tommy Ballard. So far, the testing isn't finished. They've tested 4 of the 5 things they want to test. And so far, it's a match, but there's still more information that they need to know for sure. So there's no real hint from that as to who did the shooting. The only statement is that there was a sale of the gun by Nick Houck. So, and that he sold it under a fake name, thus sort of implying that maybe there was some reason for that. Now, finally, the bond and the next information that was dropped at the hearing related to the bond, because the bond that was set for him was $10 million. And his defense attorney had a lot to say about that.
In 28 years, I had never heard of a bond even coming close to this.
And I can tell you, I've never asked for a $10 million bond. This is the first multi-millionaire I've prosecuted for murder.
So the defense attorney said this is oppressive, $10 million bond. I mean, who could do that? And that's unreasonable. The prosecutor said, well, I've never asked for this before. This is the first time I've ever had a multimillionaire accused of murder. So That's why. And he said, this is someone whose real estate, whose businesses all put together are worth $10 million. So the judge will decide later whether or not he's going to reduce the bond. The bond for Joseph Lawson was set at $500,000, far less than it was for Brooks Houck. But of course, Lawson was not accused directly of murder either. Now, the biggest twist of the day, though, is yet to come. The entire Houck family was accused of taping the grand jury proceedings, something I have never in my life heard of. And you will hear what the prosecutor thought about it, too.
Defendant's sister, Rhonda McEvoy Houck, brother, Nicholas Houck, mother, Rosemary Houck,
Turned and points to her.
brother-in-law, Alex McEvoy, and Rosemary Houck's live-in boyfriend, Larry Mott, all recorded, secretly brought in recorders and recorded the grand jury. I've been practicing here, Your Honor, for 25 years in this state, and I've yet, ever, heard of anyone recording a grand jury.
He alleged the family was trying to get their story straight, trying to solidify a lie.
Has been stated before.
So absolutely bombshell information, absolutely stunning. I've never heard the like of this. According to the prosecutor, the entire family took tape recorders into the grand jury proceedings and they recorded what was actually going on, what they said. That way, according to the prosecutor, they'd be able to go back, play it for everybody else, and make sure that their stories corresponded. The prosecutor, in other words, is suggesting they did this in order to lie, in order to make sure that they had a straight story and to get other family members off and out of trouble. Now, and I'll show you just a little something. Let me show you what the grand jury statute is. Just a second. There we go. Okay. So this, from the state of Kentucky, here is information about grand jury proceedings, the secrecy of proceedings by the grand jury, subject to the right of a person indicted to procure a transcript or recording, and subject to the authority of the court at any time to direct otherwise. All persons present during any part of the proceedings of a grand jury shall keep its proceedings and the testimony given before it secret, except that counsel may divulge such information as may be necessary in preparing the case for trial or other disposition. So and for those of you who aren't familiar with it, I'll give you just a quick explanation of what the grand jury is. And I'll go ahead and remove that from the screen. So the grand jury is a group of jurors, not a final trial jury. The purpose of the grand jury is to help the prosecutor assure that there's enough information, enough evidence that it at least could go to a jury, that there's a reasonable belief that it could go to the jury. And so a final trial jury. So the grand jury is simply listening to evidence presented by the prosecutor. There isn't cross-examination. The defense attorney isn't present. The defendant isn't present, but listening to the testimony and the statements of other people. So the allegation, it's supposed to be completely secret, completely private. There's never supposed to be anybody going except the prosecutor and the grand jurors and whoever the individual witness is. So this was a huge allegation that they had done this. I wondered how on earth they figured out that this ever happened. I can't even imagine. So this case has definitely intrigued me. If you would like to hear more about that, please put that in the comments. I want to thank Melanie who wrote me about the case because I think it's really fascinating. Now, on Monday, we have a super special broadcast. As you know, we go live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Monday, we're going to be having Kevin Greenlee and Anya Kane. They're podcasters who have covered the Delphi murders for years, done probably hundreds of podcasts on the Delphi murders. So we're going to be talking to them, asking them questions what they think about the bombshell information in the Delphi murders. What do they think? Do they think Richard Allen is innocent? Do they think that someone else connected with Odinism actually murdered the two young girls? We're going to be asking all those questions. One really big issue I want to find out is a key difference between the Delphi murders and the Brian Kohberger case. So you just have to wait till Monday to find out what that is. But be sure to hit the subscribe button because you don't want to miss that. It's going to be a really special interview show. Also, if you would, please hit the like button. And I want to say thanks to our moderators, Marlon and Mama Pinks, and I will see you on Monday at 7.